Good evening, everyone. All right, there we go. Good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock this November 5th. I'd like to call the City Council study session to order. Will you please stand with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. We'll do roll call real quick like. Councilman Loy,
Here.
Councilwoman Kesty,
Present.
Councilwoman Diamond,
Present.
Councilman Henderson.
Here.
Councilman Koch.
Here.
Councilman Burns.
Present.
And Councilman Lavaca.
Present.
Okay, all here and accounted for. All right, we're going to jump right into unfinished business. This is House Bill 1590. It's the RFP, additional project funding options. And Charlie, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. At the last meeting, we had the item to provide RJ Group, which the council chose to do, with $611,000 from 1590 funding. In that write-up, as a result of some conversations that happened previous to that, we also had provided some other funding options for the other couple of projects, just for the council to discuss if they wanted to discuss those. So we mentioned last meeting that we would bring this back, which is what we're doing tonight. And like to the options, I'll just cover those briefly, but what I'd like to start with is just a quick check-in with the council to see if the majority of the council members want to have this conversation. If you do, we can have it and go into more detail. If you don't, then we can move on the agenda. But the two options for additional funding, I just wanted to mention that up front. One was general fund balance, and our projected ending fund balance has us at 35.4% of the total general fund's budgeted expenditures. Our council policy is 12%. If we were to allocate the $200,000, that's the remaining request from the two other projects, that would take us down to 33.6%. The other option was the council strategic reserve. So we provided those two options. But first off, just like to check in with council up front on whether this is worthy of your time this evening.
Okay, what is council's pleasure? Paul?
Mayor? No, Paul.
Can I ask just a quick question? The reserve, the 34%, I saw a figure in the, scrolling down of $5 million. Is that what we're talking about? That there's $5 million in reserve?
Yeah, the projecting ending fund balance for the general fund is $5.3 million, and it would be down to $5.1 million after this.
But just to follow up, just so I'm relatively new, just so I understand. So that would be the general fund, reserve fund, but in the other funds, there's also fund balances that bring us all the way to what you're talking about, right? Or is that different?
No, this is just the general fund.
Okay.
Reserve. So this is the money we carry from year to year in the general fund that essentially serves as, we call it the fund balance, but essentially serves as reserve funds. If in need, we can use those with council approval.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Lavaca?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. So my understanding with the reserve funds is that as we carry that from year to year, it is basically budgeted into our yearly. It isn't just like $5 million that doesn't get allocated from the general fund and then that much more for the other funds, right? Or is it, because it looks like we have a zero balance budget and there's not necessarily like, oh, this just goes to a savings account or investment fund, but it actually, over the 3-year budget, is allocated out.
At some point, I'll turn this over to Kelly. But initially, I will just say that the city does balance its budget pretty much every year. Not always every year. Sometimes we have capital projects and other things that will throw it a little bit out of budget, the general fund. But generally, we do that. We've been building this balance up over time. So it's been gradually increasing because we've been keeping good fiscal prudent policy in place. And not doing things like the council, chose and staff recommended as well, not to spend ARPA funds on ongoing expenditures, for example, when we had those funds. So not doing things like that means we're in a much better financial position.
Okay, thank you. I am just on the note of what you're asking about. I'm in preference of not moving forward with the discussion at this time, just because I think that we did have a lot of discussion on it, and there was a lot that has been expended on this topic for quite a while. Just, that's my personal feel on that, and I did send you guys an email on that. Thank you.
And Councilwoman Keston?
I'm not in favor of using our general funds for 1590 tax purposes. I think that we have given to a lot of the organizations and shown that when we had the money, we were able to utilize it and get it where it needed to go. And at this time, I don't want them to come dependent on us being the ATM. We have roads to fix, we have other needs, and that's where I'd like to see that funding go towards. So I'm not interested in this conversation.
Okay, Councilman Lloyd?
Yeah, I thought in our discussions in the past that we talked about, well, we have to keep building the thing up if we spend all the money. So I believe that we agreed not to be going down to zero and have to, because if you spend it all, you're gonna have to just wait for how many years to do it. So we had a decent amount of money that we've donated so far, so my suggestion would be, I believe we already decided that.
And Councilman Cock?
I already made my points about the cottages. 14 cottages would dig into the under 30% AMI, which is, according to our own comprehensive plan, is where we're greatly below, underwater. I also understand the concerns of neighbors around the cottages, and I think that's a question of management and being transparent with the neighbors and inviting them in to talk. On the YMCA, that's our building. I don't see any problem with giving $75,000 to fix it up. It's almost like me putting a new roof on my house. It's fixing it up, it's our building, and it'll help the Y at the same time. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Burns?
I'm in complete agreement with Councilman Cock. I think that, first off, fixing up the YMCA building to help our youth is a spectacular way to use our funds. We're investing in the future of our community when we're providing them with a better place to hang out in the evenings and stay out of trouble. I know I have students that appreciate that facility. The 0 to 30 AMI is a serious problem when we look at our comprehensive plan, and that is something that Family Promise is helping fill for us. As Councilmember Lavaca has stated in the past, and I know others have agreed with this, no one can afford to just go out and build these. No private contractor is going to build a house that is going to fit within the 0 to 30 AMI. So it ends up getting funded from government funds. If we pitch in a little bit more, we can help get a little bit more out there, get a few more roofs, overheads, and help more families. I think this is a worthy cause for us to expend funds on, especially this small of an amount, considering how much we just expended in 1590 funds.
Okay. Yes. Oh, Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. So we did just spend a lot in 1590 funds. Those funds are required for us to set aside from our sales tax. We did our due diligence. We went through and we spent those funds where they go the longest. I think that the use of unrestricted funds to subsidize the 1590 program, especially with potential funding and budget shortfalls that we're seeing all around the rest of the county, I don't think it's a responsible use of the money. We have many other things that we've talked about over the last 2 years that we've wanted to fund that we haven't been able to, like a crosswalk, like finishing a sidewalk on Bennett Street. There's been just a laundry list of things that the taxpayers of our city have not been getting. And I think going down the road of throwing extra money into what should be 1590 funding is just not a responsible use of the money. And I wouldn't like to move forward with this.
Councilwoman Diamond?
I'm actually in agreement with Councilmember Henderson. The other issue that is hard for me to deal with when we're talking about the funding coming from the general funds is that we just went to our taxpayers and asked for a lift levy for our fire department. And we are now later going to be asked to increase taxes by 1%. And so we're
taking funds and utilizing them then when we don't even have a finalized budget as we're going through for 2026 as we're working through. So for the time being, I would say that I am personally not in favor of using it from the general fund. If council wishes to try to use it from a different fund. I know when we were talking about the whole RFP process, we did talk about and we did mention in that meeting that we would like to see, you know, whether we could provide some service through some other funding. But I believe that maybe we weren't clear, or I wasn't clear in that I meant from some of our service funding or other funding like that coming out of the general fund is not what I would believe to be a good use of the funding when we're dealing with other situations. But that's just my opinion.
Councilman Lavaca?
Thank you. And if I may ask a question, Charlie, because when we had our committee meeting, the YMCA was, I think, $225,000 is the remodel cost they were going to do for the Y. And so in that discussion, we were letting them know, like, 75,000 was going to go towards the kitchen, and that's what they were asking for. And they had other funding for new carpet, remodeling a functional bathroom, putting a back porch on. And I remember looking over and asking, is that 75,000, could that come out of that other funding and you don't do a back porch for right now, or don't do a new carpet or a bathroom remodel, and then still get that functional kitchen out of there? But that would leave that funding, if we had that allocated, to other things. Like I would suggest services, rental prevention, things that we had funded last year, especially over the winter time. And they seem to be in agreement with that. And so if they needed more funding, and they're getting a lease for $1 over a long span, plus we did allocate a lot last time. So is that still on the docket?
I'm still, I've got their project here. Actually, Tom Pierce is here from YMCA. We could have him speak to it a little bit. But I've spoken with him and let him know that we were having this conversation tonight. But there's also a follow-up conversation on services that we're going to have here in a little bit. And they have a proposal in for that, so.
Okay, so there's more on that side too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like to stick to my point, like, this year we do more, then next year comes along, we won't even have a bank build up to do more next year. There will be more RFPs for brick and mortar, more RFPs for services, and we won't even have any, so we'll continue to pull from our general or our strategic. In the same time, we can't get concrete roads fixed, things like that down. That seems to be pretty big hot topics, so that would just be my personal opinion. Thank you.
So do we have a motion?
I would motion to move forward with not adding additional funds to the House Bill 1590 RFP.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilman Henderson, second by Councilwoman Kesty. Choosing to not move forward with funding to go into the 1590 RFP. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have 5 in agreement and 2 opposing. That's Councilman Burns and Councilman Koch. All right then, moving on then to new business, the Housing and Human Services Funding Request. And I believe, Charlie, this is you again, yeah?
Yep, thank you, Mayor Johnson. So this particular item, this is we had a council discussion about services that came up, and my initial comment was I thought we had about $80,000 left in 1406 and 1590, but that did not take into account the Children of the Valley contract, which we had just issued. That wasn't reflected in the numbers, so that number was really like 40,000. I put that all in a weekly update a few weeks back, and I included that excerpt in the council memo for this evening. So we covered it there. Mayor Johnson mentioned that update as well in one of the meetings. And then we put it in the council budget amendment, the ability to allocate $300,000 from the general fund. Kelly called that out as well, towards backfilling for 1406 and 1590. So the issue is this: if we want to do funding for those services, those critical emergent winter services, we need to find another funding source because we're not going to be able to do very much at all, and we wouldn't recommend doing anything with 1590 or 1406 until they indeed do recover. We have a unique situation, this is really unique, where we have an unexpected $300,000 coming from Helping Hands Food Bank. So the city's been leasing land to Helping Hands Food Bank now for a number of years. Helping Hands Food Bank has secured a grant through Department of Commerce, and they are going to be providing us an unexpected $300,000 here very shortly to buy the land. And I've got emails from the Department of Commerce confirming all that. So with that in mind, you could potentially use that money, which is coming from a human services agency, to keep these services going this winter, and then allow 1406 and 1590 to rebound, and then begin to fund with those two things services at a more sustainable level going forward. But right now, if we, if we don't do this, we don't really have any money to use for this purpose. So it's really a council policy call on whether you want to go forward or not. The timing was really short on this because obviously the winter weather is here. And so we got an RFP out literally the night that the council passed the budget amendment that put a request out. We had 6 proposals come in from 5 different agencies. All of those agencies are present here tonight, or I think most of them are. They're prepared to present to you a little bit about their projects, about 5 minutes apiece. I asked them to keep it short because there are a lot of them. But that's the opportunity before you. General fund monies are a little bit more flexible if we decided to use those funds than the 1406 and 1590 funds. So that's what this item is about. Wanted to talk with council about it up front, make sure you were comfortable moving forward. If you are, then we'll get right into presentations from agencies and start the process.
Okay, I see Councilwoman Kesty has her light on.
Thank you. If we have roughly about $40,000 left in the funding, I would only be in favor of using that funding. I would not be in favor of using the $300,000 from the general account at all for this. And I would like it to go to the business or the nonprofit that was able to help the most people, and we got to hear from a lot of them, and Helping Hands, in my opinion, was able to do the broadest. So I really, with rental assistance and the different things that they did, so if we had 40,000, that's all we have. We can't pour from an empty cup, and I'm not stealing from the general fund, so that's my thought.
All right. Councilman LaVaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would be in favor of utilizing some or all of that 300,000 for that program toward the services. We are coming into a point where it is wintertime. SNAP has definitely held up. Meals on Wheels doesn't seem like it's going to affect us, but we don't know what's going to affect us coming up. So we really got to consider the services for our elderly, for our families that are, a need, for our people that are servicing that food bank, for the children at the YMCA. I'd be interested in hearing the RFPs, and I'd be interested in seeing if we can help with those services. If there is, and I wouldn't want to extinguish all of it, but if there is money that can be set aside, there's another budget coming in at December that could pose another shutdown. There's other things that are happening in the federal government and the state of Washington, and we just got to make sure we do have funding allocated for our seniors, for our families, for our children, for the people that are in need in this community. It's great that that opportunity from Helping Hand does give itself, and hopefully we don't see that need going forward in the future years.
Okay. Councilman Henderson, I think he was next, yes?
Thank you. Yeah, we used a lot of money last year, and it took us, I think, since 2020 to build that money up. We really didn't spend it on anything that I can recall before last year. And so there was a lot of monies that went out. I think this is a rare opportunity that we're getting $300,000. I think the sale of land that belongs to the city and the taxpayers should probably go back towards something infrastructure related for the taxpayers. So I would agree that we do have $40,000 left, and that should go to the organization that can help the most broadly. I wouldn't object to hearing which organization can provide those services that we said we wanted for the wintertime. It's a bummer we don't have the 80, but we can lump that in because we just spent 40 not a month and a half ago. So also, let's see, to Councilman Lavaca's comment with the Meals on Wheels, I did bring that up in my council report a couple of weeks ago, of the uncertainty of that. And if we spend this money now and we don't hold on to unrestricted funds, if there comes a time when, you know, later on this winter that we're able to help fund Meals on Wheels because the wheels fall off, then we'll have the money ready to go. So using general fund money to supplement something that is just gonna be status quo spending from last year, we're not gonna do another $300,000 land sale next year to keep it at that $300,000 range every year for this. So we need to tighten our belts a little bit here, I think.
And for the record, the county is continuing on until the end of June, right?
Yep.
So Meals on Wheels and other meals will be covered from them. Councilman Cock?
Yes, I don't know that we need to spend all 300,000, but I'd like to hear the proposals to see the severity of the problem we're dealing with, because just my recollection of how many people were helped with these monies before, it literally saved people's lives, took elderly people out of cars. So I'd like to hear what how the services, how severe they are, because Councilman Lavaca is right, SNAP benefits are ending. I recently read that credit card debt is at the highest ever in the U.S. history. Auto delinquencies are an all-time high. In fact, several companies that provide loans to auto companies went bankrupt recently, and Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, said if you see one cockroach, there's others. So there's all kinds of problems in the economy. People are really hurting, and I would just like to hear the proposals to see, maybe we do spend 40, but maybe we need to spend more.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Burns?
I'm completely in agreement with Councilman Cock and Councilmember Lavaca. I believe that we should set aside the $300,000. I'm not saying we should spend it all, but I'm saying we should set it aside. We should look at these proposals, see what we can do to benefit the most people in our community, to ensure that we don't allow people to fall through the cracks, to freeze in their cars at night, to starve. That's not something that I would want anyone I care about left to deal with, and I don't want to do that to our fellow Sedro-Woolleyites. I think that this is a good way for us to spend these funds, especially if we use it to help bolster the fund going forward. If we don't spend all of it, but we use a reasonable amount to make sure that we do have a cold weather shelter, to ensure that people do have that opportunity if they just need a few more dollars to make rent. You know, maybe they're between jobs, maybe they just switched jobs, the rent just got raised. If there's something we can do to keep families with a roof over their heads on a cold month, I think it's important we help out where we can.
Okay. Councilwoman Diamond?
I would be in agreement with the 40,000 that we have, and I am open to listening to the proposals and understanding where the need is and what is being asked for. I would be open to a small amount of that going towards these funds. I do not believe that the 300,000 that is not earmarked should go 100% to it. I think that this council and future council and different departments might have various needs, and I do agree also with the comment that Councilman Henderson had made about infrastructure improvements as well. There's quite a bit of things that need to be done there too. So I think if it's looked at very carefully and reviewed, I think that might be able to help a little bit, here and there. But I do think that 300,000 here, 300,000 there is just a status quo that we as a city are not able to keep up with on a yearly basis. We simply don't generate that much tax revenue for 1590 and 1406. And so to continue to supplement it all along the way is great. It's short-term, that becomes a short-term situation, but it's not a long-term situation. So I think there's valid points raised by all council members, and that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. And Councilman Lloyd, everybody has had opportunity to chime in. Do you have an opinion one way or the other? Would you like to hear the presentations, or?
If we're gonna do this, I would be for the 40,000, because you start spending all your reserve. Once you start, you don't stop.
So I heard at least 4 council members state that they do want to hear the presentations. Is the council willing to do that overall? Is there anyone who's greatly opposed? Okay, if not, then let's move forward with that.
Okay, and I don't have a particular order here, so I'm going to go ahead and create an order. I'm just going to look at the way the attachments. laid out.
I have that too. You want me to go ahead and call them? I already
Yeah,
have them
let's go ahead and
attached.
do that. And
Yeah.
just for information, if you brought slides, we have a thing to advance slides with here. We just ask that you don't hit all the buttons, just hit the directional buttons, and I'll turn it on for you. That's there. Woody, our IT director, is upstairs and will control the slides for you. You just have to ask for next slide. And Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Right. So thank you, Charlie. So the first one that we have actually within the packet is Helping Hands Food Bank. Hi, Eric. How are you? Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. Have you got your light on, by the way? Is the blue light on?
It is now.
Perfect. And there was, I just want to put it out there, and I should have done it before this. So there have been concerns and complaints about not being able to hear. So if you have a way of really projecting into the mic, that would be great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for being patient with me.
No, not a problem. Thank you for this opportunity. You know, for us and what we've seen, people that are in housing instability, I mean, it's a lot of work to get out of it. It's time consuming. Some of these people and families have multiple barriers going on in their lives. And it is one of those things that, you know, really takes a much larger look at. That's why we look at things from a holistic standpoint with our participant households for Helping Hands. You know, we look at the whole picture. We sit down with them, look at their budget, look at their expenses. You know, if we decide to fill a funding request, whether it be, you know, temporary shelter, whether it be diversion assistance, you know, anything like that, we also help them out with other resources as well. We look at helping lower their financial burdens, their financial stresses, their emotional stresses. You know, hooking them up with the food bank is a great way to do that, especially right now, you know, because, you know, food prices were already high. And there was people that were having to make a decision between pay rent and eat, and then they found us. And so that's when they started coming in. And we have seen record growth just on the food side of things. You know, and then we proactively continue to work with each participant household that comes in. You know, we don't wait for them to call us. We call them about sometimes every week, sometimes every other week, depending on where they're at in their journey. And we just touch base with them. How you doing? You know, is there any other help you need? Anything, you know, come up that you just can't quite overcome on your own? And for us, you know, it's kind of a calling. You know, our navigators, their experience in helping them navigate through all of the resources, including the housing. And this is what we do for our housing people. You know, one of the things that 1590 really helped us with was it provided us with a pretty much unrestricted fund that we can use for anything. Flexible funding is something that you don't see in a whole lot of service contracts or other grants that are out there. Some of them, there's a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of, oh, do they qualify? Do they not qualify? But the 1590 really, really helped us out because we were able to help out everybody that came to us with it. And we did good work. So for us, our ask is for flexible funding to go out there and to, do, whether it be one-time rental assistance or maybe a little bit of short-term rental subsidizing until people can get back on their feet. Employment-related expenses, there's not a lot of help out there outside of WorkSource for people who need, something as simple as a flagger certificate so they can get back to work. And then, of course, there's the bills, for those people that pay their own water. When they get behind on the water bill, PUD will shut them off real fast, but there's no assistance programs out there for it. And so having flexible funding really allows us to help with that. So for us, our ask is, this is a lot of work. It's time consuming. Our ask is for helping us cover our staff, giving us the resources to be able to provide direct support to these participant households, and then just, help us keep going.
Okay, very good, thank you. You did it within 5 minutes, that's beautiful, thank you.
That was my goal.
Okay, all right, thank you, Eric. Next is the YMCA, and Tom? Welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me. Good to see everyone again. We got the presentation going. Can you hear me okay, by the way? All right. Thanks again for having me. I'm here to represent the Sedro-Woolley Rec Center, the program that we're operating out there. If you go to the next slide, Woody, this is the picture of it. I'm sure you've seen it. It's over at the old library on Ball Street. Oh, thank you. I walked right by you. I apologize. Let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, great. So thank you, because you guys have helped us out. Last year during the 1590 program service funds, you graciously and generously donated $100,000 toward the program support. And just as a reminder, the two main things that we do out at the rec center is really helping youth overcome housing instability through our street outreach program, as well as operating the free rec center, drop-in center for high schoolers, middle schoolers. And those are the two main programs that we're operating out of the rec center. And it's been quite a success. In fact, whether you look at it as a success or needs growing, here's some impact that has occurred so far just through September due to your help. And as you can see, we've served more than 1,000 more meals to youth this year, surpassing what we served all of last year. So it's pretty incredible. 200 more youth have checked in already through September compared to last year, all of last year. And then the number of contacts that we've had with kids that are facing homelessness or housing instability has also increased. Some really good, important, and fun news is the number of programs that we've brought to the kids. More than 80 programs, special events, special activities that we're delivering through partner agencies, delivering through volunteers, delivering ourselves to the kids at the rec center. And one commitment that we made to you was that the funding would help enable extending our hours. Our published hours are Monday through Thursday, 2:30 to 6 o'clock. That's during the school hour, period. In the summers, we open up 12:30. We have extended into Fridays. We've done 21 Friday during the days, sometimes in the evenings. We've put on concerts that are youth-led with our local agency partner called SWAMP. It stands for the Sedro-Woolley Arts, Music, Performance. We've done, there's a drama club. They've done their practices there because there's a little stage set up. I don't know if you guys have been there lately. So all that's happening. And so the request we have is really to renew it, to renew the support and help the youth and continue to meet the increased need, meet the needs of the youth and the needs that they're coming to us and asking for. And this would help secure operating funds through 2026. It doesn't get us whole. We actually operate at a deficit at the rec center to provide these funds, but yet we're committed to doing this. We think it's the right thing to do. We think it's important for the community. And that's why I'm here in front of you asking for a renewal. So just a couple other stats for your benefit. We employ 6 full-time people at the rec center, 3 part-time. We rely on volunteers every month. And obviously, we've got a strong network of local agencies and other partners that help us operate and deliver to these youth every day. So,
All right.
thank you. I appreciate it. Here's some fun pictures if you're interested. It's in your packet. I'm probably at my 5 minutes.
Okay.
There was a question about the rebuild or the remodel. Is it appropriate for me to address whatever questions are on that? Not to confuse topics, but I just didn't want to leave it unanswered.
We haven't
good?
really opened that up to everybody else to have those kinds of Q&A, so I would like to keep it fair.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, moving on to Family Promise. So, Audra, is that okay?
Hello. Okay. Can you hear me? Good evening. I want to start off by thanking you for inviting me to come and present on our funding request. Go ahead and slide. Since you guys hear from me a lot, quite frequently, I'm going to keep it kind of brief on some of the topics. You'll find some other stats on the screen. As you know, Family Promise is a holistic approach to ending homelessness. When homelessness does occur, we provide impactful trauma-informed care as quickly as possible to reduce the trauma a child experiences when they enter into homelessness. Our success rates kind of speak for themselves. Slide. Last year, we came in December of 2024 and received $104,800, and I just wanted to talk about what we did with those dollars. We served 139 Sedro-Woolley residents. We did this through seasonal shelter and year-round shelter. Later on in June, we were extended the opportunity to actually include all of our Sedro-Woolley housing projects in there. This had an 87% success rate of stabilizing families in their current housing or restabilizing them in new permanent housing. Slide. Okay. So homeless prevention doesn't need a whole lot of upbringing. It's really the star of our show. We were able to serve with 47,800. We were able to serve 106 Sedro-Woolley residents with a 100% success rate. I like to share the stat that I got for our gala. It costs about $36,000 in Skagit County to rehouse a family once they become homeless. So the 30 families that we serve specifically with this funding, that would have cost the county $1 million. So that really stretched your 1590 funding. Slide. Sometimes we are not able to serve a family before they get into homelessness. Maybe they don't make it to us in time, or something tragic has happened, like a house fire, or someone's lost their income. So we act quickly, and the $57,000 that you gave us last year, we were able to serve 29 Sedro-Woolley residents with that. Unfortunately, 5 of the other residents that we did not get permanent housing, we did not have placement for in our transitional housing because we were full. So we had to move them to other cities where they resided. We did follow their cases, and most of them are in permanent housing now, but we just didn't have capacity at that time, and that's why we came to the council and asked for fundings so we could increase transitional housing as well. So the cost to serve with this funding cost us on average $5,700. So if you think about that number that you heard earlier, Family Promise is one of the lowest cost housing programs. Typically, that does run us at about $16,000 per family, but we were able to match your dollars with county dollars and private donor dollars to make it possible to serve these families.
I am going to talk to you about our ask for tonight. These numbers we've adjusted and just done some quick math here. So based on what we heard here tonight, our total ask is for $86,000, and $45,000 of that would go to homeless prevention, which could serve 30 families with that amount. That is keeping 30 families in their homes before they come homeless. Then asking for $41,000 in housing support. That money
could go a lot of ways. So $41,000 could provide 7 families a year of housing in our transitional housing. It could provide 8 families 90 days of housing in our shelter, and it could provide 820 nights of seasonal shelter funding, which we are just about to open in the next couple of weeks. So those dollars really do go a long way. So that's our total ask for tonight. Thank you so much for considering us.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to Home Trust. Felicia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Felicia Minto. I'm the Executive Director of Home Trust of Skagit. And I don't have slides, but I did want to talk a little bit about what we provide. Home Trust of Skagit has been a nonprofit since 2009. We came into being with the help of Community Action and have remained good partners with them ever since. We have 11 homes in Mount Vernon. In one development, we have 3 scattered sites in Mount Vernon, and then we have 14 homes in La Conner, and we manage 18 affordable rentals also in La Conner. And we're working on a project in Sedro-Woolley as well, and also have future projects hopefully further upriver as well, so that we can serve all of Skagit County very fully. We serve 0% AMI all the way up to 80% AMI in all of our different programs. And that is in our bylaws, up to 80% AMI. But we do serve less than that in our affordable rentals as well. And our ask is actually pretty flexible. We're willing to, we would actually graciously accept any amount because any amount can go towards the down payment assistance for the families that need homes that we have on our list. So, and that is one way that we can use those funds.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you. And the last is the Boys and Girls Club. Welcome, Ron.
Good evening, Council, and thank you for having us tonight. I was not aware that there were general funds on the table. I was not aware that that was part of it because I didn't actually do the work on this. And I was not aware of the focus of these funds. And so respectfully, we withdraw our application. In Maslow's hierarchy, there's things that come before what we are looking to provide and will continue to provide. But this also showed me that I need to come present to you and show you what we do without any money from council. So that is the presentation you will see from me next time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ron. Okay. So you have 5 in front of you. So who would like to begin the discussion? Councilwoman Kesty?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for presenting. Again, I'm only for spending of the $40,000. So I'm looking at this at where that $40,000 the most could go. And I really want it personally to be on the rental assistant and hotel vouchers coming into the winter season. And so I really don't want to see it towards covering staff coverage, but if it could be specifically for rental assistant and hotel vouchers with what Helping Hands said, that's where I would probably put my money into.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Henderson?
Yep, thanks. So Charlie, during the presentation for Helping Hands, 2 things stuck out at me was unrestricted funds is what I heard, and I heard part of it was to cover staff. Is that an allowable use for?
It depends on what the staff are doing. So, for example, a grant writer to help acquire additional housing is a potentially allowable expense under 1406. I'm not sure about 1590. These both have different rules, so I'd have to look. but it potentially is an allowable use, depending upon what they're doing. Also providing housing services, so if you've got somebody managing affordable housing, that can be an allowable use as well.
Okay. I really don't, this is a rare opportunity that we're getting a sizable amount of money from the sale of a piece of property that is owned by the taxpayers, essentially. Again, I think that money needs to go towards infrastructure improvements for the city. I am fully in support of spending out the $40K to whoever can best provide this cold weather, wintertime services that, we identified as being of the most priority with the money that we have available.
All right, thank you. Councilman Lavaca.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you guys for presenting. That was very, very good. There's obviously a much bigger need than what we have to even do with. Even in previous years, we never had that kind of money for the ones that are coming. And some of them are rather large. I think in the last session that we had last year, we were able to provide large amounts, but without the idea that might be thought that we would have the ability to do that continually. So we wouldn't be able to do an ongoing $100,000 gift from taxpayer money, so it's not really a gift. But I do think that it would be nice if we had the ability, either through that sale of some of that money or through strategic funds, to figure out if we can match the 40,000 that are there at least for this year. We do have a winter coming. Last year, it was very beneficial for Family Promise to do the rental prevention, Helping Hands to do the rental prevention. Both of them did help families. It does take staff to do that. Even at the YMCA, which did a wonderful job with the resources you guys had, a lot of that paid staff is coming from somewhere. It is taking care of a lot of youth. So it's unfortunate that we don't have that. And truthfully, we won't even have that next year. I don't think. We'll have, I believe, 120 at the end of next year, something like that. So we wouldn't even, with brick and mortar and services, wouldn't really necessarily have that.
That was for services. That was our projection for services only.
Okay. So we'll be closer to that towards the services side, but this year we definitely exhausted that. So that would be a suggestion I make, because obviously the need is greater than 40 grand. And I think that 40 grand might not do as much as we hope it to for this winter. And I'm kind of thinking it's probably going to be a pretty tough winter.
Okay. Councilman Koch.
Yes, I agree that, I disagree with just using the 40,000. I think just from hearing these presentations, the need is dire. We have cold weather coming up. There's a lot of people we're going to need to house. I do remember from Helping Hands that they prevented 3 people from dying in their cars. So I don't think $40,000 is enough. I would be okay with the match, so we would still have $260,000 from the sale of the property. That it sounds like a reasonable a compromise, and perhaps give half to Family Promise, half to Helping Hands, 40,000 each, would to go toward helping people get out of the cold.
Okay. Councilman Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I definitely think that the match is the bare minimum that we could do. The $40,000 will not go far enough looking at the services that are required in Sedro-Woolley. I always hear council members talk about how we need to support people in Sedro-Woolley and they just want to help people in Sedro-Woolley. Here's people in Sedro-Woolley who are going to need our help. And we have the opportunity to help them with their money. These are residents that have fallen on hard times, and we would be helping them with the funds for which they have paid the city in their taxes when they were on their feet. And I am in favor of at least doing the match. Breaking that up between Helping Hands and Family Promise is acceptable to me. I wish we could provide more service to YMCA and help them with food, but I can see that it's unlikely we are going to dig deep enough into the coffers to help all of them with those needs this winter.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilwoman Diamond.
I'm in favor of using the 40. I'm also in favor of the match of the additional 40 for a total of 80 is what I'm hearing as a consensus so far. And so that's where I'm at. I would like to see where our dollars can be stretched the most and helped people the most, especially during the cold winter months that we're coming in on. So that's where I'm at right now. So I would venture to say that listening to council, we're currently looking at Helping Hands and Family Promise through that, and I'm not sure where anybody's sitting with YMCA.
Okay. Any thoughts regarding YMCA? Councilman LaVaca?
I think it's a necessary program. In all reality, we wouldn't be able to even consider doing 104 every year going forward, with understanding that, of course, the other agencies like Helping Hands, Family Promise would be shortchanged at that time. At this case, even last year, we would have only had 120,000 altogether. So we're kind of shy of that because we spent pretty far. But next year in services, brick and mortar, I mean, it starts to add up pretty quick. So I don't know that we could do much for Helping Hands at this time. Not Helping Hands, YMCA. But there would be, if it comes to it, I mean, if we see something in the future that's an urgent need in any one of them, I think that it would be worth hearing them out because we know that that money would be somewhere.
All right. Councilman Koch?
Yeah, I agree. I think that what the services the YMCA provides to our city are very important. But I think in terms of utilizing these current funds, we need to direct them toward how do we keep people from dying in the cold? How do we get people out of the cold? And perhaps will be some other funding sources I'm unaware of for the YMCA. I know you guys have a great teen shelter that I think we should support going forward, because I'm sure that you have teens from, the new shelter, the homeless shelter for teens. I'm sure we have kids from Sedro-Woolley going there. And, but I think right now it's the acute need, and the acute need, it's like, is keeping people from dying and providing shelter for them. So those two programs, I think, and I was impressed with all the presentations, and I think we need to maintain connection with these wonderful service providers. But I think 40 to Family Promise and to Helping Hands, and let's get some people out of the cold. Thank you.
Okay. And Councilwoman Kesty?
I just wanted to remind everybody that we did do a lot of good with the monies that we did have. And it was through imposed taxes for us to do that. And you will never have enough money to solve this problem. Look at Olympia. Have they done very well with it? And I do think that we need to, we are able to help with the 40,000, but we also need to be very mindful of the money that's coming in and the hardships that are coming forward, so that the tax-paying citizens of Sedro-Woolley aren't going to be taxed more and potentially be homeless themselves. So I just want to remind everybody, we are doing right. We are helping people, and you have to do things. You can't pull from every little pot to start giving to one thing. We have to be mindful of the whole picture here.
Okay. All right. So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right. What's the motion?
I'm sorry, I'll probably get a little confused on the money sources, but I'd like to move for 40,000 that we have left and match it with 40,000 from the 300,000 on the sale. I imagine the 260,000 then just goes into the general fund, right? With 40,000 to Helping Hands and 40,000 to Family Promise.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman Koch and a second by Councilman LaVaca. Get that down. Well, with the 40,000 that we have remaining, combined with 40,000 taken from the 300,000 from the sale of the land that Helping Hands Food Bank is going to be giving to us, 40,000 will go to Family Promise, and another 40,000 will go to Helping Hands Food Bank. Is that clear, Kelly, or?
It's long, obviously, but the only caveat, little addition I might add is the 40,000 we have remaining in 1590 and 1406, just so we're really specific
Okay.
about that.
You can amend my motion that way.
Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. So we have majority approving the 40,000 to Family Promise and 40,000 to Helping Hands Food Bank with 3 opposed. Councilwoman Kesty, Councilman Henderson, and Councilman Loy. Okay? All right. All right, so moving on, second item in new business. And by the way, before, I know some of you will be getting up and going, I want to thank you for coming in and giving the presentations and sharing exactly what it is you do. It's not very often that we get to hear the details, and I think that that's important for all of us, especially as we're trying to synthesize the money that we have. But also you put that information out there, this is recorded to the public, and it makes them aware of what you're doing and what your needs are. And I think that's huge. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for your presentations. Okay, moving on to the second item under new business. This is ordinance 210825 through 2026 property tax. This is a first read. Kelly?
Good evening, Council. So the city must pass a property tax ordinance annually as part of the budget process to establish the total property tax that will be levied for the upcoming year for the city. This ordinance, along with other documents, have to be turned into Skagit County by November 28th. So just wanted to give a clear timeline for that. So attached in the packet, we've included the draft ordinance as well as the documents that we received from Skagit County. But the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight is really just a walkthrough of how property tax is calculated and some common questions. I think it's deceptively complicated. So wanted to walk through that and also have the document is attached and can hopefully be a resource if you ever need to go back and find the information all in one place again. 2 things before we get into the document that I wanted to highlight is it does include the annual 1% increase. In my opinion, that taking the 1% decreases the likelihood that the city would need to go out for a levy lid lift in future years. And then also that the proposed 1% increase results in, on a home that's $532,000, $14 additional annual expense. So just wanted to give that context up front. I believe we have printed for all of you the handout as well. But Woody, if you want to scroll to the handout, it starts with like a gray and yellow. There you go. And we'll actually go one more page. So this is just a quick breakout of how property tax is calculated. Every year we start with the prior year budgeted levy, so $5 million, and then we can increase by 1% of the highest lawful levy, so it's not necessarily exactly what the prior year was, but the highest lawful amount. We can increase that by 1%, and then the bank's capacity is the difference there of the highest lawful levy and what we actually collected. There's also generally new construction every year. This changes every single year. The county is currently projecting that we have $32 million in new construction that was added, which results in $84,000 of additional property tax. There's also a refund levy for a small amount in there for $2,000. So that is the calculation for the property the budgeted levy. It then gets split into two items. The first one is the exemption. So when the assessor came to speak, this is the area he was talking about. Those individuals that qualify for some exemptions, they still pay a portion of property tax. This is that portion. And then the remainder goes into the regular budgeted levy. And then the budgeted levy amount gets divided by the total assessed value of all property within Sedro-Woolley city limits. And that also changes every year based on the county assessor's evaluation, which impacts the levy rate. So a lot of people think every year we increase the levy rate by 1% or whatever it ends up being. But we don't. We increase the total bucket of money first, and then that calculates the levy rate. So Woody, if you'll go to the next page, this just shows how that gets impacted for an individual property. So after the levy rate is calculated, for an individual property, you take the assessed value of that property divided by 1,000, and then multiply that by the levy rate. So for this property, the $532,000 home, we estimate the 2026 levy rate to be 2.497. That property owner would pay $1,330 in city property tax. One of the big questions we get, and people often get this a little bit mixed up, is does an increase in assessed value result in an increase in property tax? And not necessarily. So if the total value of all property within city limits, that is what determines the property tax collected. So the total amount of property tax collected is called the budgeted levy. The council can increase that, by 1%. But does an increase in the assessed levy of an individual home increase the property tax for that homeowner? So it depends. So if all of the city property, all property within city limits increased 4.8%, and that's what the county is projecting for 2026. If your property value increased that same amount, 4.8%, you will not pay any additional property tax, assuming all other things are equal. If and we gave some examples here, if all the whole city properties increased the 4.8%, but your property increased more than that, your assessed value increased 6%, you will see an increase in your property tax of about 1.2%. However, in that same scenario, if your property value only increased 2%, you're actually going to see a reduction in your property tax. So just wanted to put that information out there, that an increase in assessed value does not necessarily mean you're going to pay more property tax. It's just based on relative to other properties. And I think the assessor at a couple meetings ago gave some great information about businesses, that there was a lot of properties owned by businesses a couple years ago that decreased in value. So that property tax burden got spread out to the other properties that did not decrease in value in the same way. Next question on here is, how does the city's 1% increase impact an individual property? although, like I said, the calculation is never simple, but a 1% increase generally increases what the property owner will pay to the city about 1%. So that is a good comparison, assuming all other things are equal. So assuming, the citywide assessed value increased 4.8% and yours increased 4.8%, your property tax would only increase 1%. So in this example, on the $532,000 home, a 1% increase is about $14 a year. So just wanted to give that context and to say these numbers are estimates. So, it may not be that exact amount, but using the best information we have now. Let's see. Does new construction increase property tax for existing homes? It does not. So we gave some examples here, but new construction adds to the city's property tax levy. It doesn't increase any burden on any other resident's property tax. Does property tax keep up with inflation? What if you want to go to the chart on the next page? It does not. The chart here displays two indicators of inflation. So that is the blue line and the gray line. Inflation since 2003 has increased about 64.2%. Based on CPIU, or 42.7%, according to IPD. And the city's property tax has increased 32.2%. So it does not keep up with inflation. What does the city, what does property tax fund in our city? Primarily, property tax funds the general fund, our fire reserve fund, parks and facilities fund, cemetery, street, and the library fund. So there's a chart of those funds in there. And how much does property tax fund the general fund? So in the current 2026 budget, property tax funds about 21% of the general fund. We also receive property tax for the EMS levy, the countywide amount. So if you include that in there, property tax funds about 33% of our general fund. We've also included in there some other amounts that fund the general fund, primarily sales tax and utility tax are the other significant items. One of the last things I wanted to talk about is do other jurisdictions levy property tax? So they do, and we've listed them here. If you want to go to the next table, this is just an example of a property and the jurisdictions that this property pays into property tax. The city only has really control over the Sedro-Woolley amount there. Also wanted to provide some other resources here. The Washington State Department of Revenue has a great information page on the property tax 1%, as well as the Municipal Research and Service Center, MRSC. This is a great resource as well if you have more questions or want to look up anything further. But the final thing, I know I've talked a lot, is the city will use this data presented and present an ordinance to council approving the 2026 budgeted levy. Tonight is the first read of it, and then next council meeting will be the second read and public hearing. And again, we need to have the final documents to Skagit County by November 28th. I'll also just note that next meeting, we plan to do the first read of the 2026 budget amendment. We already have an approved 2026 budget, but next week, in coordination with the property tax item, we'll review the 2026 budget amendment.
Okay, are there any questions? I see Councilwoman Kester, you got your light on.
Thank you. I just have a question, and I can't see if Nikki's on there or not. So I was just curious, because this is a first read, if there was enough talking that we didn't want to do this at all, to bring forward again for a second read because we weren't in favor of raising the tax. Could we do that now, or do we have to go to a second read?
We haven't held a public hearing, so next week is the scheduled public hearing.
Even if you were to, I guess, shoot it down, you still have to have the hearing so that people then can hear it, and then
We have to have the public hearing before taking action, the final action on the ordinance, the final ordinance that gets approved.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Koch?
I just had a question. Nikki, when you scroll back up, those tax rates for the other jurisdictions, are those already approved?
Those are the 2025 rates.
So, because we don't decide this kind of thing in a vacuum. When did they do it all in a rush too, before the end of November?
Everyone has the same deadline by end of November. The county, the timeline too, we have to wait to present until the county has completed their documentation, and they can't do it too early in the year, or they wouldn't have accurate new construction or assessed values.
The reason I ask is that the county's facing $19 million in deficit, and I just wonder, it sounds like they're a done deal for the 1%. Can they also get that 1% police thing, or does that have to be a vote?
The 2015.
Yeah.
So they can do, their commissioners can do the 1%, just like our council. I think there's some different timeline things. If you do the 1/4% by a certain date, you can do it by their commission, and if it's after a certain date, it has to go out to a vote.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact dates. I think it's a year or two out, but 2015 allows councilmanic or commission-manic, in the case of the commission at the county, decision-making on adding the 2015 sales tax to benefit criminal justice and public safety.
Okay, because, the pro and con is, certainly the con is if everybody else is going to raise tax. I don't know anything about the school district. That's a burden on our taxpayers. On the other hand, the 1% is also money you could monetize. You could make it more than what it is. So it's an interesting question.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Am I remembering correctly, 2022 was the last time that we took the 1%? Does that sound right?
I believe so. I'd have to go back and double check.
So every year, inflation exceeds the 1% we could take. So we're losing ground on what the city is capable of doing. Each year we lose a little bit of buying power, so to speak, because of inflation. We had 8% in 2022. We took a 1% increase, so we were down 7% in spending power. 4.1% in 2023, 2.9% in 2024, and as of September, 2.9% for 2025. So each year we can do a little less with the money that we have. We have the ability to do only 1%, which is, $14 for this year on the average home?
Correct.
If we continue to decline this year after year, we're gonna have to start cutting the grass with scissors or starting to let the kids play soccer and weeds, because we're not gonna be able to do the things that our community is expecting us to provide them with. We are already struggling at times to provide funds for road repairs, for example, and we're relying on grants and funding options that I'm hearing council members want to decline taking. So I don't know where these funds come from. If we don't increase the property taxes ever, if we keep wanting to turn down grants, I'm not real sure how we fund the city. So if a majority is in favor of declining this, I would be really curious to hear how we continue to fund things, or what big ticket items we plan on cutting in the future as we continue to see these huge inflation numbers and no way to counteract it. So I am in favor of the 1%. For $14, I'll pay an extra $14 a year to make sure that we keep the lights on in the city.
Councilwoman Diamond?
Oh, I didn't have mine on.
Okay. Councilman Henderson?
All right, thank you. Those are all very good points. I'm sure we can all see the humor here in having $500,000 of general fund money that we can just use on a whim, thrown together really fast. And in the same meeting, we're talking about raising the taxes on our citizens. And there's been points thrown out that, well, we have a lot of people out there that just aren't making ends meet, and we're talking about raising the taxes on those same people. Well, we have a $5 million plus budget surplus for this year. Well, all the other cities are doing something wrong, except for maybe Burlington. I don't know what but the other big three are all facing millions of dollars in deficit, millions. Okay, so we could impose a tax on the citizens and take in about $50,000, $50,504. Okay, year after year, inflation keeps going up. Year after year, that's right. Well, year after year, our revenue also does go up, right? And so, taking a $50,000 sum of money from the taxpayers who are homeowners, they're paying their property tax. They're already doing their part, right? It's our job as a council and as a city to be financially responsible with our money. So I would absolutely be opposed to a 1% increase this year or the next year or any year after that, because we really don't need it. We really don't. Based on the two other agenda items earlier this evening, there's no way that asking for more money is appropriate or responsible, so.
Councilman Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I happen to agree here with a lot of the points that are made, actually. I don't really see how, I understand that inflation is rising up. And so it's suggesting that maybe with inflation rising, we need to keep raising the cost of something in order for that to go up. But the very revenue we're taking in is based on that very same inflation, such as sales tax, cost of housing, all that stuff. So that revenue is rising up. It should be, in general. So otherwise, it's just saying, hey, let's keep raising the taxes on this thing that's already raising up and keep that going. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me with the property tax. It is 1% of 2.5, so it's not really suggesting that it's going to, deal with the school levies that are trying to pass, any kind of state short funds. I mean, there's a lot of other, that's like 8.6% or something like that, closer to 9% total for the whole, property tax. And so we'll see where that ends up going. It's not a huge ask. It's $14 a citizen per month, which is just a few dollars, and then that compound interest does add up. But at the same time, spending $33,000 on a stretcher for an ambulance, it's stainless steel, hydraulic actuating arm, a little PLC motor, some handles, some padding, aligned wheels, having all of our public works guys CECL certified, having, excessive things that we end up getting because we need it, it's shiny, we got to have the best. We should be able to make do with within our means. With the property tax, I don't think it's very much. I've never really been concerned with the property tax of the 1% increase, and I know what it does with the compound, so it's like 14 and then it adds up. It's not gonna make enough to really do a huge difference. Per family, it does do more for the city, but at the same time, I always come back to the fact that we are raising the revenue with the inflationary rise at the same time, because the city takes in from the taxpayers. So if their inflation is going up on purchases, on product, on housing cost, ours is just naturally going up at the same time because we're not selling a product, we're taking off at the top of whatever they're taking. So it's never really made a lot of sense to me. That's just my take on that as well. I think it's 0.1% for the fire department and the police levy for the county, and then every city can choose to do that for their own selves too. So I believe, but our deal is going to be that police station, right? That's going to be the next big thing to come up. We're packed, we raise property tax, and then we're going to have a levy at our doorstep probably within the next year, I would imagine, maybe 2 years, where we're being asked to, hey, we got to really prepare for this new police station. And it's going to be $30 million or whatever. It's going to be, something's going to come down the line regarding that at some point. So I think we're probably already going to be looking at raising these property taxes or having that brought to us. Thank you.
Councilman Loy?
Is it, I believe I was told in the past, if this city council turns down the 1%, in 3 years, that council can retroactively go back and get that money. Is that correct?
There is the thing of the banked capacity. You can never get the money back from, so if the council took the 1% now, it would be an increase of $50,000. And then next year, you know, if it was another $50,000, if the 1%, you know, that's $100,000. And then in the third year, you know, that would keep going. But if in year 1 and 2, you don't take the 1%, you can never get back that particular $100,000. You could use the bank capacity to make year 3 whole, or the same as it would be. But you can never go back and collect that $100,000.
But you can, the council can go backwards and get.
You can in a year utilize bank capacity to increase the budgeted levy in a year, where, say, in the preceding 2 years, you did not take the 1%.
Is that only for 1 year, Madam Mayor? I think it is, or is it for 2 years? You can't go back 5 years or so long.
I don't know the exact number of years, but you can take banked capacity. So you can take the highest lawful levy if approved. But I'm not sure how many years. I'm not sure if there's a restriction on the number of years.
Well, okay, then what's bank capacity?
Banked capacity is the difference between your highest lawful levy, so what you could have taken if approved by council, and what was actually taken. That's bank capacity. So last year, it was not approved. We did have a refund levy included in there, so the numbers don't match up perfectly, but last year the council did not take 1%. So the difference between what the council actually took and what the highest amount that could have been taken is the banked capacity.
Now I'm more confused than when I started. Thank you.
Councilman Koch?
Yeah, I have concerns about the 1%. As I noticed, all sorts of things are happening in the economy, including the foreclosure rate. In addition to the new police station, we also have, we're going to have to redo our sewage treatment plant. Mm-hmm. Do we have any other large expenses ahead of us in 26, like big union contracts we'll have to renegotiate?
So we always have union contracts every year. Most of our union contracts are between, like even if we're not renegotiating, have a CPI adjustment. So usually between 2% and 4%, or I think most of them. So in the last couple of years, the wage table has increased by 4%. Next year, depending on where the October CPIU falls, we don't have that data yet. Will be, I'm going to guess around 3%. The August was 2.8%. So our wage tables for most of our groups will increase by 3%. And our medical insurance will increase by 8.7%. So wages and medical benefits make up about 76%, I think is what we figured last year. We'll actually have final numbers on that to present at next council, but wages and medical benefits make up 76% of the general fund budget. So a portion of that's going to go up at least 3%, a portion of that's going to go up 8.7%. We do have the fire contract we're currently negotiating, so we won't know exactly what that amount will be yet.
Okay, thank you very much. So those, over the years, just in the short time I've been here, those go up every year.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to plan for those, the employment, because I'm torn on the 1%. When I doorbelled, it was fees and taxes that everybody complained about, and I hate to put it back on people. But also you can monetize it. So I don't know. It's a tough decision, but I lean on not doing it.
Councilman Henderson?
Yep, thank you. Kelly, I saw something up there about the library fund. Can you touch on that? Do we pay out the library district from what we collect as city sales tax as a portion of what the rest of the county who is within our library district of Central Skagit is paying out?
Yeah, so the count, and I might not get this 100% right because I don't have everything in front of me, but the library district doesn't collect property tax within the city of Sedro-Woolley limits. Basically, we collect it. How for long ago that got wrapped up into ours, and then we pay them out for that portion, minus the debt on that building. So we cut the check for the debt on that building, and take it out of their property tax that we would remit to them.
Okay. And then I got is Nikki on the line?
No.
So I was doing a little bit of reading today about this ordinance, and in order to, from what I gathered, in order to pass an ordinance, you have to have a public hearing, but if you don't pass an ordinance, it's kind of a wash, right? Am I correct in assuming that?
Eventually, you have to pass an ordinance to collect property tax. So if the council does not pass any ordinance regarding property tax, we would only collect what was collected last year, which would exclude the new construction amount. So if you don't take any action, which I highly recommend you do not do, it defaults to the prior year levy.
Okay.
But I would have to triple check with the county to make sure that's accurate. But at bare minimum, I would recommend taking the new construction.
So to clarify, in order to get the new construction money, we would need to pass an ordinance on this. And if we were super opposed to the 1% increase, we'd do an ordinance because I've only done this once so far, so bear with me, of 0% of a levy increase, and we would take the new construction.
Correct,
And in order to do that, we would have to have a public hearing.
correct.
Okay, thanks. Oh, yeah.
Councilwoman Diamond?
I was just going to say that at this time, I'm currently opposed to the 1% increase. The fact that we've sat here and had meetings trying prior agenda items, pulling from the general fund and the discussions on additional surpluses and where we sit, and the interest from various parties in suggesting that council disperse those funds, and then to come back and ask for property increase and taxing our taxpayers is crazy to me, that it's all in one meeting. So I currently am opposed to the 1% increase, but I do understand the new construction aspect of that. But as far as the increase on the taxpayers right now, I'm a no.
Councilman Cock?
Do we know what the new construction figure is that helps the budget? Maybe I missed that.
Yes. There's $32 million in new construction, which results in $84,000 of new construction additional property tax.
So that goes into the general fund then,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And just one comment about, so we balance our budget every year, so the 1% property tax does help us balance our budget every year. We generally don't spend ongoing expenses in the general fund to use our fund balance in the general fund. So, all of the recommendations to council about using general fund balance are on one-time projects. So earlier this year, we requested from council using one-time general fund reserve money or fund balance to fund, I think it was called like option 1 and 2, completing Olmsted Park, some of the shelters at Olmsted Park. That's a one-time expense, not reoccurring. Like we generally wouldn't use fund balance to fund, a new position, something that we're going to have expenditures on going into the future. So just wanted to make that clarification on fund balance.
Cool.
Councilman Lavaca?
Yeah, so just to touch on that point, $50,000 starting now with a 1% increase over 10 years is $5 million, or $500,000, not $5 million. But that ends up funding a position at, let's say it's a part-time position at $50,000. Now you can get that position and know that you'll have that money coming in every year versus having a $5 million fund balance that gets depleted until it's not funded again. So it does, yeah, it does make sense, and it does make sense to see that, if it's 1 year or 2 years, even to support that, you see a 50 and then 100, and then the next year is 100, the next year is 100, and then you have that coming in. So it does help the city in a big way, and it'd be interesting to hear the comments from the public if for that public hearing, because that's an important part of that. So. What was I going to ask? It was something that wasn't quite related to that, so I did lose my train of thought on it. But I did have something for you on that subject. I'll wait till it comes back through. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Well, if there are no more comments, the next meeting on this we'll bring it back November 12th, which is the next meeting, and there will be a public hearing on it, and it will be your second read. So that completes our business. The last item on the agenda is public hearing. It is 7:34. I will open it up for public hearing. If you have anything you'd like to share, please state your name and how you're affiliated with the city, and please keep it to 3 minutes.
My name is Dan Simons. I'm with Central United Methodist Church, and I'm chair of the Capital Campaign for a Family Promise on the Project Impact which is the 14 cottages. We're having a public meeting December 9th at 5:30 at the church. We sent out letters to people within 1,000 feet, so if you don't live within 1,000 feet, you're invited at 5:30 to come on out. We're going to divide it up into what I call special interest groups, but talk about fencing or operations or so forth. So we'll have a bunch of different stations with specialists that you can talk to on the individual things. We expect to have a groundbreaking February 28th. That's dependent on all the city permits and so forth, but we're headed that way. And the site work is expected to take about 6 weeks. So we'd like to start constructing units about the middle of February up in Linden so we can bring them down. In my ideal world, there'd be 4 of them coming down. The tough part is we've funded the site work, but we've funded, as of this weekend, we've funded 1 unit, and nothing from 1590. So we're working on raising money there, but I was disappointed in the council that they chose to spend their 1590 on 60% AMI project. So this 0 to 30% project is struggling for funding. So that's my disappointment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. Mr. McHenry and Mr. Larson have left the building. So Dennis O'Neill, you're next on the list.
Well, thank you for making it easier for people back here to hear what's going on. And I'm sure I don't know how it works with the people at home watching. I suppose they can turn their volume up or down. It's just us back here can't. I don't know, but it works better. But I had a question. I've gone by the school over here quite a bit, the high school, because I don't live very far from there. And I noticed that I don't see a patrol car. We had a big fundraiser here about 3 years ago. Everybody's rah, 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 let's get the police department out at the schools, especially the high school, maybe it's all of them. But there's no patrolman out there. I go by there every day, folks, and I don't see them. But I did see today the speeding really picking up on Woolley Street and on the other streets across, because I'm living right in the middle of it. And they're speeding up. There's a lot more noise tonight than there has been for quite some time now that Halloween's over. And I was wondering if you could talk to the police department and see exactly when they're over here. I know they have to rotate, but I don't know where they're rotating at. And I see a lot of patrol cars over here today. I think 7 or 8 of them sitting here that aren't going anywhere. And I know it's a matter of more than patrol cars. It's also a matter of keeping your expenses down. But it would be really great if you checked into that a little bit and find out who's checking that for the police department, making sure they're out there, at least at each school, and showing the presence, because it's not, I don't see it, and I don't think anybody else has really been on top of that. If they have been, I'd like to know who it was. I'm not saying they weren't there, but I'd like to make sure, because everybody's trying to cut back on expenses, all the departments, so they don't have to ask for more money and everything. I think that's great. But you get one accident, one kid get killed over there or something, and, people on the edge, the budgets are being cut, and parents are getting stressed out and all that business. So I think it's even more important to show the flag a little bit more and to get these guys that are deciding to make a speedway out, like on Woolley Street. It was really bad today. There was people going down that street. You wouldn't make it if you're crossing the street. So it'd be good to do that. And I'd also like to have a speed bump over there on Telcott Street, just where I live, because that is, when you look at the people going on those 2 streets there, one in front of our former city attorney, people are going pretty fast there now. There's only 2 blocks there, and that's a real residential area. The street I'm on, you got an awful lot of people that are elderly, and they can't move very fast, whether they're driving or walking, and I'm one of them. So I would appreciate a little bit more attention to those streets. As long as you don't pull me over and write me a ticket, it's real fine with me. Anyway, thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, it is 7:39. I will close public comment. Before we move to adjournment, there's just a couple of things. First off, I want to point out to the council that I handed out the elected essential workshop. There's going to be one in Burlington. It is under the Open Government Training Act that all of, elected officials must complete within 90 days of taking office, or then every 4 years training. So I know that that is something that maybe some of you haven't been able to complete yet. So there is information here, and if you would like to attend, and you can attend online if you'd like to, let Kelly Conca know and she can get you registered for that. That would be great. And then the last thing coming up tomorrow night is the special joint meeting. It is going to be at 6 o'clock at the Skagit County Public Health Department, the Chinook Conference Room, which is where we all met before. Again, you could even do that online if you wish to. And the purpose of the special meeting is to discuss the next steps for the joint regional projects utilizing the opioid settlement fund, review updates on the draft interlocal agreement, the ILA, and explore 2026 joint meetings and collaboration ideas. So I did send that out to you along with the 18th, which I'd like you to get on your radar. The Housing Task Force, which our own Nicole McGowan sits on, is going to be hosting a North Star for the Neighborhoods, it's strategies in addressing housing shortages. This is on the 18th from 6 to 8 at the Library Commons in Mount Vernon. And we have a special speaker, William Krieger, who has extensive experience in the design of making affordable housing. So good things to have, especially as we're looking at the comp plan. All this, like I said, has been sent out to you via email, and that is it. So if we have nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.